How do you prepare to photograph a wedding? That is a question I have been asked many times over the years. Most people expect the answer to involve cameras, lenses, batteries, memory cards, or maybe a carefully organized camera bag. And while all of those are important, they're not where the real preparation begins. The longer I've photographed weddings, the more I've realized that the most important preparation happens long before I ever raise a camera to my eye. Preparing for a wedding isn't simply about making sure my equipment is ready. It's also about preparing myself. It's about understanding. It's about calmness. It's about experience. And ultimately, it's about being fully present with two people on one of the most important days of their lives. Today, I'd like to take you behind the scenes, not to show you what's in my camera bag, but to share how I prepare for a wedding, and why I believe that preparation has far more to do with people than photography. Welcome to In Focus with Ken Clow Photography, conversations about photography, storytelling, and the experience of being photographed. I'm your host, Ken Clow, photographer, educator, and author of The Experience of Being Photographed and Creating Meaningful Wedding Images Together. Whether you're planning your own wedding, love photography, or simply enjoy conversations about the stories behind meaningful images, I'm so glad you're here. So, let's get everything into focus. Preparing the equipment. Let's begin with the part that everyone expects. Yes, I prepare my equipment. The day before every wedding, I charge batteries, format memory cards, clean lenses, organize my camera bags, review the timeline, and make sure every piece of equipment is exactly where it belongs. I don't want to discover a dead battery while the bride is walking down the aisle. I don't want to wonder where I packed a particular lens during family portraits. Those decisions should already be made. Preparation creates confidence. It removes unnecessary distractions before the day even begins. As professionals, we owe our couples reliability. Wedding days don't offer second chances. There are no do-overs for the first kiss, the exchange of rings, or a father seeing his daughter in her wedding dress for the first time. Equipment matters because reliability matters. But here's something that has changed over the years. When I first started photographing weddings, I spent a great deal of mental energy thinking about my cameras. I thought about exposure settings, changing lenses, adjusting flash, and making sure I was pressing the right buttons at the right time. With experience, much of that has become second nature. I still prepare my equipment just as carefully as I always have. But once the wedding day begins, I don't want to be thinking about my equipment anymore. I want to know it so well that it almost disappears. Because every moment I spend thinking about a camera is a moment that I'm not fully paying attention to the people standing in front of me. And that leads to a different kind of preparation, one that no one sees, but has far greater influence on the photographs we create together. Preparing with understanding. Once my equipment is ready, the real preparation begins. Long before the wedding day, I'm warning about the couple. That preparation starts with a conversation, not a questionnaire or a checklist, but a conversation. I want to know how they met, what they love about one another, what they're excited about, and what they're looking forward to most on their wedding day. Every couple has a story, and every relationship is different. The only way to understand that story is to listen. As the months go by, we continue talking. We meet for an engagement session. We discuss the timeline. We talk about family relationships, meaningful traditions, and the people who matter most in their lives. Sometimes we talk about photography. More often, we simply talk about them. All of those conversations become part of my preparation. And a few days before the wedding, I'll sit down and review my notes. Not because I've forgotten them, but because I want those conversations to be fresh in my mind. I'll remember that one parent may be especially emotional. I'll remember that a grandparent traveled across the country to be there. I'll remember the location where they got engaged, or the story behind a family heirloom they'll be wearing. Those details don't tell me what photographs I'm going to make. They tell me what to pay attention to. Understanding doesn't guarantee a meaningful photograph, but it helps me recognize the moments that matter most to the people I'm photographing. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between taking pictures and telling someone's story. Preparing with calmness. There's another kind of preparation that happens before the wedding. I try to remind myself what the day feels like for the couple. For me, it may be another Saturday. For them, it's one of the most important days of their lives. They're excited. They're probably a little nervous. They're making promises that will shape the rest of their lives. And for many couples, they'll also spend much of the day in front of a camera. Over the years, I've learned that being photographed isn't always easy. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I wrote The Experience of Being Photographed. Most people don't spend their lives in front of a camera. They worry about how they look. They'll wonder if they'll know what to do. They hope they'll look natural. They hope they won't feel awkward. And those feelings are completely normal. So before every wedding, I try to remember that. I remind myself that my job isn't simply to create beautiful photographs. It's to create an experience where people can stop thinking about the camera, where they can relax, where they can laugh, where they can be fully present with one another. Because when people feel calm, they become themselves. And when they become themselves, the photographs become honest. That's the kind of preparation no one sees. But I believe it's one of the most important things I do before every wedding. Preparing with experience. There is one kind of preparation that can't be rushed. Experience. You can't buy it. You can't read about it in a book. And you certainly can't develop it in a single wedding season. Experience comes from showing up, wedding after wedding, year after year. It comes from watching people, from making mistakes, from learning what works and what doesn't. And most importantly, experience develops intuition. Not the ability to predict the future, but the ability to recognize a moment just before it happens. Sometimes it's a look between a bride and her father before they walk down the aisle. Sometimes it's the way a couple instinctively reaches for one another's hands. Sometimes it's the laughter that's building in a conversation before anyone else realizes something funny is about to happen. You don't know exactly what's going to happen, but experience teaches you to recognize when something meaningful is about to unfold. I remember sitting down with April and Tony after their wedding to design their wedding album. As we looked through the hundreds of photographs, we talked about our favorite images from the day. Without hesitation, we all landed on the same photograph. It was a black and white image of Tony dipping April on the dance floor. It wasn't planned. There wasn't a pose. There wasn't a conversation beforehand about recreating that moment. It simply happened. Years of photographing weddings didn't tell me that moment was coming. But they taught me to recognize the energy building up on the dance floor, to anticipate that something special might happen, and to be ready when it did. That's what experience prepares you to do. Not to control the story, but to recognize it. Preparing to be present. When the wedding day finally arrives, all of the preparation comes together. The equipment has been checked. The conversations have happened. The understanding is there. I've reminded myself what the day feels like for the couple. Years of experience have prepared me to trust my instincts. And now, it's time to let all of that preparation do its work. One of the goals of becoming a professional is that the technical side of photography becomes almost invisible. I still pay attention to exposure. I still adjust my settings as the light changes. I'm always thinking about composition and timing, but I'm no longer thinking about how to use my camera. I'm thinking about the people in front of it. The camera becomes a tool instead of the focus. That's an important distinction. Because if my attention is on menus, buttons, and camera settings, then my attention isn't fully on the couple in front of me. I want to notice the nervous smile before the ceremony begins. I want to see a mother quickly wipe away a tear. I want to hear the laughter that starts at one end of the bridal party before it spreads through the room. Those moments don't announce themselves. You have to be present enough to notice them. And I think that's what all of this preparation is really about. Preparing the equipment, preparing with understanding, preparing with calmness, and preparing with experience. Each step removes another distraction. Each step frees me to give my full attention to the people who have trusted me with one of the most important days of their lives. Because, in the end, the best wedding photographs aren't created by cameras. They're created by people who are fully present for moments that will never happen again. The final frame. When people ask me how I prepare for a wedding, they usually expect me to talk about cameras. And cameras are certainly part of the answer, but they're only the beginning. Preparing for a wedding means preparing the equipment so it never becomes a distraction. It means preparing with understanding by getting to know the couple and learning what matters most to them. It means preparing with calmness and remembering what the day feels like through their eyes. It means preparing with experience by trusting the intuition that only years of photographing weddings can develop. And ultimately, it means preparing to be fully present. Because at the end of the day, meaningful wedding photography isn't really about cameras. It's about people. It's about relationships. It's about recognizing moments that will never happen again and preserving them with honesty, care, and intention. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. One of the reasons I created the Ask Me Anything section on my website was to continue these conversations beyond the podcast. Whether you're planning your wedding, curious about photography, or have a question inspired by today's episode, you're always welcome to reach out. You can find the link in the show notes or visit my website to submit your question. Thank you for spending part of your day with me. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate if you would follow the podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who might find it meaningful. Until next time, remember, the most meaningful photographs aren't defined by the camera that captured them. They're defined by the people, the relationships, and the moments they preserve. I'm Ken Clow, and this has been In Focus with Ken Clow Photography. Thanks for listening.